Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Canadian Shield, your trusted source for analysis. My name is Sterling, and I'm your host. This episode, we're going to be covering the blatant contradictions in the flimsy excuses of the Bloc and the NDP as they prop up the Liberal government that's put us through into so much trouble, and they try to make you believe that they're doing it for your own good. The degree of disconnection is pretty profound. The degree of tone deaf is pretty profound. And honestly, at this point, there is only one reason that they're doing it, and that there can only be one explanation. Now, before I get into it, I would encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this channel with all of your socials. The Liberal Party talks about how they don't like people on YouTube. They say in the House of Commons how they don't like people on YouTube that don't agree with their policies. So clearly they're going to be using their power that the Bloc and the NDP support them in to target channels like mine. So when you give it a thumbs up, when you give it a comment, when you share it, it tells the YouTube algorithm that the market far outstrips the legislation. Now, before I start with the NDP, I want to address something that I get in my feed. Some people try to tell me that I speak with a lot of disgust, that I don't have any respect for the individuals that I'm talking about, and that's not true. But I do speak with disdain. There's absolutely no arguing that. I think that anybody who wants to tell me one thing and then does another thing doesn't deserve any sort of coddling. There's nothing gentle that needs to be said to an individual like that. You told them once that you think their position looks contradictory, and then they go ahead and do it over and over and over and over again, and then try to make you sound like you're the person who doesn't get it. I will hold them under the light that they hold everyone else under, or at least that they claim to. Now, I'm going to start with the NDP, because the NDP is clearly the one who's playing the most games with all of this big theatrics with the announcements and the tearing up and all of that kind of thing, and then turning around and nothing has changed, right? Still exactly supporting the same position, still supporting the carbon tax, still supporting the inflationary rate on rent, on groceries, doing nothing, not lifting a finger. I'm going to let you hear what he has to say, and then I'll give you my opinion.
Not to play Pierre Poilievre's conservative games. So we will not be supporting Pierre Poilievre's motion. Our plan is to stop him. Right now, Canadians need relief.
But how can you say this when you've said Trudeau must go repeatedly? How do you square that?
In the next election, people have a choice. I stand by my words. Trudeau has let you down.
Mr. Trudeau does not deserve another chance. Are you not giving him another chance today?
Not at all. Canadians will have that decision to make when the election comes. And I'm here to become the next Prime Minister of this country because Canadians want an alternative. They feel let down by Justin Trudeau. I agree with that. We are that alternative. We have shown that we can stop conservatives. We can beat them. Another measure that I'm looking for is relief when it comes to housing. We need to lower the cost of rent. Rent is sky high. I want to see measures around that. I want to see relief for people who are telling us again and again, it is so hard to get by. We need some relief.
If you're so convinced you're the alternative, why aren't you itching to get out there and prove it?
We've shown Canadians that we can build a movement. We've started that with our 2 by-election.
He didn't answer the question. He just rambled on and on, saying the same thing over and over again. It's a typical far left. They learn their lines and then they just say them over and over again. They ignore the question, which is why I left a couple of the questions in. I think it's a great question. If you're so convinced that Canadians need help, and if you're so convinced that you have the momentum on your side, why wouldn't you call an election right now? Why wouldn't you tell yourself that now's the strike while the iron is hot? I mean, I've heard Jagmeet Singh say that he feels that no matter what happens, he's going to retain his seat. He thinks that his riding will elect him again. Now, I don't know that what his numbers in his riding are, but I can say that I don't know that he has the support that he thinks he has. And I don't believe that he is looking honestly at the fluctuation in his numbers. You know, you get a temporary boost because you do something nice, and then you go ahead and throw it all away so that you can pull off a stunt, right? You challenge a guy to a fist fight when you are surrounded by armed guards, literally surrounded by armed guards. It's like watching a despot from the third world. Talk about how you think Canadians are going through struggles, so you're going to leave them to do it for another year. Another year you want to leave people suffering and crushing under the Mark Carney Liberal government. You want to assist the Liberal government in keeping the carbon tax pressure on our necks. You want to assist the Liberal government on forcing in their ideology of a 15-minute city. You want to support the Liberal government in their corruption of the Green Slush Fund. You want to support the Liberal government in their high crime and their low freedom of speech. That's all you're doing. It doesn't matter what you tell yourself. It doesn't matter what you tell me. I know better. I'm not going to believe a word you say based on the idea that you said it. The actions don't support the words. Then the action is what speaks the truth. What you've done, not what you say. And all you have done is decided that you're not going to, in fact, honor your agreement to rip up the supply and confidence. You're still 100% firmly behind the Liberal government. There is no vote-by-vote basis because right now you say to yourself, you say to the Canadian people, oh, we just won 2 seats. He said that he almost won one in Montreal and he won one in Manitoba. And then they say, yeah, but in Montreal you were in 3rd place. He goes, yeah, but it was only 1,600 votes. But the Conservatives were closer to you in Manitoba. Now, all of that aside, if you believe in your truth in your mind that you have this momentum on your team, then why not go ahead and call the election? Why not support the no confidence? It doesn't matter now. With the Bloc not going to support it, their numbers don't come up. We'll get to the Bloc here in a minute. I think that no matter what Jagmeet Singh says, he's exposed himself to be dishonest. He's exposed himself to be the person that everybody claims him to be. There's no continuity in his words. Everything he says seems to be saying one thing and doing another. Why is his whole entire caucus voting only the way that he says? I mean, there's so many things about this guy that are bizarre. And the thing that is really sad for him is what he doesn't seem to understand is the only votes that he can get are Liberal votes. It's not like a person is waffling between the Conservatives and the NDP. They're waffling between the NDP and the Liberals. So you have to take your chance now. You have to stop telling yourself that you're going to be Prime Minister and start telling yourself that there's a real opportunity for you to become the official opposition. But I don't think that this guy has a very good political strategy. I think that he's just more about living in the limelight. Like in his mind, he's a rock star, not a leader. That's just my opinion. You can tell me what your opinion is down in the comments. Do you think Jagmeet Singh did the right thing? Or do you feel that Jagmeet Singh has sort of said one thing and done another? Unfortunately for Canada, we have a guy who hates Canada and has the authority to keep the Liberal government in power. I think that that's something as a culture we need to address. The contradiction in that very existence is something that is going to interrupt our daily lives. MP Blanchet is less subtle in his tactic. He says one thing and then he says the opposite thing all in one sentence. But again, his actions are going to speak louder than any of it. So let's just have him tell you how he's not supporting the Liberals, but he is supporting the Liberals to get what he wants.
Government in exchange for propping them up.
I'm propping nobody up. This is.
You're by not voting for Mr.
If
Poilievre's
you want me to
motion.
answer, you will let me answer.
Okay.
Okay. I'm propping nobody up. I support the interests of Quebecers. If those interests are also good for Canadians, so far, so good. And I also support the idea of independence for Quebec. I'm sorry.
What would you like to see happen in the immediate? What are those interests?
Oh, I will gladly repeat that we have deposed a law which is now at the very center of the survival of this government. This is what we call power. We deposed a law that would increase the federal payments to elders between 65 and 74 years old. We want to force the government to consider giving the elders this, and that is as good for Canadians as it is for Quebecers. We also want to protect supply management in Canada and Quebec because it is very important for our producers, our market, the quality of what we eat and what we produce. So we have a very good chance to obtain that in the coming weeks. And If not, something will happen.
So first he says he's not propping up the government. Everything that he's doing is for the best of Canadians. I don't see how anything that he's doing is helping me at all. I'll get to that. Then he says that he has the real power to stop the federal government not giving, like he can take the federal government out of power unless they give him what he wants. Which is exactly what propping up means, Mr. Blanchet. Maybe your English is not as strong as you want to believe it is. Now, I can tell you with a straight face that anybody who says to themselves that they want an independent Quebec and then they want Canadians to pay for their senior citizens, that seems kind of ridiculous. Why don't you get the province to pick up the tab? Why don't you get the nation of Quebec to pick up the tab if you're so worried about it? And if we decide right now to throw Quebec out of the Confederation, who would be the premier? What would the provinces be? Would it be the Bloc or would it be the Parti? Would the Bloc dissolve? I mean, if you want separation so bad, why are you not pushing for a referendum? Why are you saying that I want separation from Canada, but I want Canadian tax dollars, I want Canadian bailout money, I want Canadian billion dollars to build houses in my province? If you really want to separate, you should be taking down the Liberal government, as they are the only competition you have in your nation of Quebec. Those should be the guys. Again, you should be striking while the iron is hot. Not telling me that you don't have you're not trying to prop them up, all the while saying that if I go against what the Conservatives want, the Liberals will give me what I want. I mean, doesn't matter. There's no loss in translation on that. That is exactly what you are doing. You are propping up the government so that they will give you protection of the supply chain, which of course is right now drastically impacted by the carbon tax. So I'm not sure where you in your mind are thinking that somehow you're going to make food cheaper with the carbon tax when they don't have that carbon tax in New Mexico, Mexico, or any of the other places that we import food from. I think that you need to reevaluate your position. I believe that if you are so anxious to make a separation from Canada, if you want to make the nation of Quebec, then I believe that the first thing you should be demanding is a referendum. I think that you should be pushing for separation right now. I believe that the only reason that you have any seats at all is because your politics are so exactly like the Liberals that anybody in Quebec knows that if you vote for one or you vote for the other, it's the same thing. There's no difference between any three of those parties. It's not an opposition party. It's just a bunch of far left individuals who are all talking out one side while they do something on the other. Now, I don't think that you have a leg to stand on. Either one of these politicians doesn't support the motion to call a no confidence. All they are doing is holding Canadians hostage. All they are doing is destroying freedoms for Canadians. All they are doing is destroying our caliber of living. All they are doing is destroying our quality of life. They will support anything. They say in one hand that they know Canadians are having a hard time, but in the other hand, they're going to support the people that are giving us the hard time. That makes no sense. If you want to support Canadians, if you believe Canadians are suffering under the Liberal government, then you need to support the Conservatives and take your chances in a general election. You need to support the Conservatives and see if the people don't throw you support that way for at least helping us get out from under. I mean, people that are being abused often feel a bunch of thanks to the people that saved them. Anyway, you tell me what you think. Do you think that we should be having a referendum? Or do you think that Blanchet is being honest, that he's doing what he's doing for the best of Canada? I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you all for listening. I'll talk to you next time.